Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast battle report. Today, 1,500 points of Dark Eldar, and Harlequins versus 1,500 points of RavenWing. And by RavenWing, I mean
Black Knights.
Black Knights. I'm playing Evan. Once again, it's a rematch from our last game, and we're practicing for the Path to Glory series, which is a tournament series. It's King of the Hill, and there's going to be a lot of death. Let's begin. 1,500 points of Dark Eldar, and Harlequins. A very simple army. I've got a Dark Eldar Cad with an Archon with a Webwing Portal and a Blaster and Arm of Misery. 2 units of Cabalite Warriors, 1 in a Venom, 1 in a Raider. Cabalite Trueborn in a Raider. A Fast Attack Venom with Fast Attack Haywire Blaster Scourge. Then I have an allied detachment of Eldar with a Hemlock Wraith Fighter, 2 Warwalkers, and I've got 2 units of 3 Eldar Jetbikes with a Shadow Seer, and of course my Hero's Path Harlequin formation. And then 1,500 points of RavenWing.
Black Knights. Let's just call it Black Knights.
Black Knights.
So we have Samael. We have 2 level 2 librarians. He has Interomancy, which is the Dark Angel. And he has Divination. We have a command squad with a champion and an apothecary. 3 knights. 3 knight squads of 6. And a Dark Shroud.
And that is 1,500 points. On to the mission and deployment. Okay, so we're going to roll 4 deployment sides. I rolled a Uno to 5.
5.
And Evan is going to choose.
I will choose this side.
Okay, that side. So I will have this side. Okay, and now we're going to roll for deployment. Okay, and I will choose to go first. Okay. Okay, so deployment and scouts and infiltrators. The Dark Eldar chose to go first and deploy first, and my warlord trait was to infiltrate 3 units. So I decided to infiltrate the Scourge, put them up here to kind of push that flank back. I infiltrated the Death Jester and Solitaire. Also infiltrated these guys here with some wily infiltration moves to force the Dark Angels further back into their corner so they can't just rush me. And I deployed a few things here, fast moving. I have in reserve, I have a Deep Striking Raider with the Archon and a Shadow Seer. I've got a Hemlock Wraith Fighter. I've got the outflanking Warwalkers and 2 Venoms. One of them's coming regular reserve. One of them has a Shadow Seer as well. Okay, so we've marked units for death, which is an extra point. Tertiary, so he's marked that unit, very easy point, and I've marked this isolated unit on the flank because I'm going to have to deal with them at some point. Other than that, Line Breaker, Warlord, and First Strike, so killing a unit in the first turn, are all part of that roll. Other than that, Evan, have a fantastic game, sir.
Too?
Drum roll, please.
No, so close.
Close.
So close.
No dice. Dark Eldar, turn 1. My turn 1, I kept the Death Jester and Solitaire, pulled him back behind some line of sight cover. The marked for death unit is moving and running. This Raider moved up. The Cabalite Warriors were able to get inside, and then a lance shot forced this into jinking, but did kill one of the Black Knights, while the Scourge on top of the fortification, safe from the bikers for now, is taking a pot shot at the jinking Dark Shroud, but did not get through the 2+ cover save. So we're moving on to turn 1 for the RavenWing. Let's see what the game has in store for us. All the Dark Angels moved up, ignoring cover weapons from here, blasted 4 out of 5. The one guy was left hiding back here, and the 2 snap-shooting knights were able to take the last model down as he failed his last 3+ cover save, gaining First Strike for the Dark Angels and marked for death. On the other flank, this shooting killed 2 of the Scourge that went to ground after suffering a lot of plasma weaponry death. So now we're moving on to Dark Eldar, turn 2. And we have a couple of reserves to make with a nice dice that you can see. So we're going to go for outflanking Warwalkers. They arrive. We're going to go for deep striking Venom with a Shadow Seer. He arrives. We're going to go for deep striking Raider with an Archon.
Yep.
He arrives. We're going to go for the Hemlock Wraith Fighter. He arrives. And we're going to go for the Venom as well. He arrives. So the entire army is going to be committed. The reserves all arrived. I had a webway portal with the Shadow Seer. The Spirit Seer and the Archon jump out here together with the Shadow Seer. Focusing on this unit, Psychic Shriek, all 6 of them, with 117 rolled on Psychic Shriek, which was brutal. Conceal Reveal took Shrouding off of this, but even then, it passed every single cover save I had to make against all the blasters after jinking and the Haywire grenades. On this flank, moved up some of my reserves. The Solitaire charged into this unit of knights, killing the Sergeant and 1, and they failed their hit and run, so they are still in combat with the Solitaire. They put 1 wound on him. There's 4 of them left. Then in shooting, the command squad took no damage, and I was able to kill 1 of these knights that are marked for death, even though they have jinked with pretty much the rest of my shooting. And now we're moving on to the Dark Angel's turn 2. There's a lot of units within 12 inches of the center, so he's not getting any points for this just yet. And now we're going on to the next turn. Okay, what will happen? Big command squad shoot the Venom to death, and they were unable to charge. They were dominated as well, so they kept on having to take leadership tests to do anything. That Raider is fine. Those jet bikes are fine. These Cabalite Warriors are okay. These jet bikes are okay. Back here, we have these knights move up to engage the Warwalkers in the backfield. 1 died to an overheating plasma shot. Then they charged in and put 1 hull point on the Warwalkers, and they lost 1 in Overwatch. And then the Solitaire has hit and run all the way from over here. He only has 1 wound left, so he's hoping to come and score a point over there as well. Now we're moving on to turn 3. They don't have enough units within 12 to capture the center objective, so we are continuing the battle for the King of the Hill. So I'm strongly controlling this flank, but there's still a lot of damage in this unit with the Librarians and Samael. Let's see what the freak show can do. These jet bikes killed 3 Black Knights with a 2+, 4+ save. They are heroes, and then they only moved 1 inch, so they're going to die next turn. Hemlock Wraith Fighter moved up. So did the Shadow Seer and the Venom and the Spirit Seer, the Raider, just kind of getting within 12 of the objective. Forced the command squad into jinking and almost killed the Apothecary, but he passed a feel no pain save to survive volleys of shooting. And the Solitaire helped the Warwalkers to get out of combat and killed that last unit in the backfield. So we are moving on to Dark Angels, turn 3. It's been an absolute bloodbath. Let's see how this goes. We had the command squad kill the jet bikes and combis charge into the Scourge and kill them. Now there's 2 units, 1 big command squad and the Death Shroud around the objective, and I have 2 raiders, so nobody's getting that point right now. It's turn 4, so this objective is now worth 4 points if anybody else control it. Okay, so moving on to turn 4 for the Dark Eldar. It'll be a critical turn. We only have the command squad left versus the world, and of course the Death Shroud. And let's see what we can do with this. Okay, next turn. No psychic phase at all. They successfully stopped all the psychic powers, which was a very good thing in their turn. Put 1 hull point on the Death Shroud. Other than that, did no damage. So that's going to sting. It's going on to turn 4 for the Dark Angels. What will happen? We're exposed. Let's see what the Dark Angels can bring to the table. Got off lightly. I lost a unit of jet bikes, 2 hull points on that Raider, and I did lose my Shadow Seer with the masks thanks to that Librarian. Other than that, we're moving on to turn 5. Could be the end of the game, and I haven't been able to take the objective because there's 3. 1, separated 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2, 3 units. So, moving on, let's see what we can do at the end of this turn. What an intense turn. Finally killed the Librarian in combat, charging both the Archon and the Trueborn. I split up all my units into massive multiple units to try and capture the hill. My Solitaire died to Overwatch finally, because Dark Angel's Overwatch hit on 5+, which is awesome. And Dominate, the power that I needed to happen, he was successfully stopped it with 4 denies. And I got it off with 4 dice, so wow. That was really intense. He really needed that to stop, and he was lucky enough that he stopped it. Okay, we're moving on to turn 5. Could be the end of the game. Right now, nobody has scored any points for this primary mission. So we'll only start scoring it if it goes on to the next turn. Okay. Turn 5. Combat. Samael put 2 wounds on the Archon. He's still alive. That Librarian put 1 wound on the Spirits here. He's still alive. 4 Trueborn suffered no damage. They are still alive. And this Venom took 1 hull point. He is still alive. Okay. Well, it is the end of turn 5. Right now, as the game stands, primary is drawn. The Dark Angels do have kill point differential, but we'd have to see how many points they get. But it's been quite a few points they're getting for kill points. And we both have Linebreaker. We both have Marked for Death. We do not have Slay the Warlord, but Evan did have First Strike for killing a unit during the first game turn. So Evan needs it to end. I need it to continue. Let's see what happens.
Yes!
And
yes!
The game is done.
Finally!
This is Evan's first win against the Dark Eldar, and it was a tightly fought match. Okay, so make sure you stay tuned for the Tactical Corner. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Check the links down below to all the other... Hello and welcome to another Tactical Corner. Today we fought on a Fat Mat by Frontline Gaming. Make sure you check out their website and order one today because they look amazing. The table looked awesome. We're playing 1500 points of RavenWing versus 1500 points of Freak Show style Dark Eldar. So the links are down below for both armies, but in terms of tactics, the RavenWing army is all about rerollable cover saves and doing a lot of damage. They have a lot of plasma shooting and a lot of close combat potential with the Corvus hammers that the Knights have at Strength 5 and Rending. Samael makes the unit really fast, and both Librarians really bring a lot of tactical flexibility to the army. The Dark Eldar Freak Show is based around leadership debuffs with Psychic Shrieks galore, as well as leadership negative modifiers like the Armor of Misery and the Mask of Secrets. A Solitaire and some Harlequins really add a bit of combat punch to the very elite looking force. Now, as to the game really started during deployment. And having first turn, the Dark Eldar, I was able to push the RavenWing back into their deployment zone. I knew that I was going to have to sacrifice a few units to stop the bikes from being right on my deployment zone turn 1. And Evan did well. He focused his forces on the flank that I had fortified and was able to get first strike and the point that he had gotten for picking my unit of Cabalite Warriors for an extra tertiary point. Now this was huge, and it really gave the RavenWing an advantage in points early in the game, and I was really hoping those Cabalite Warriors would survive. Now, I was able to then focus on the isolated unit that was on the far left flank, supported by the Dark Shroud. As soon as my reserves came in on turn 2, I knew that I was going to need to focus on one of the 2 flanks, and of course I picked the weakest flank and hoping to completely annihilate it. Now,
that Dark Shroud proved to be a lot more sturdy than I expected, which meant that it took a lot of firepower and even survived the entire game, then later to get Line Breaker. As my reserves arrived, I started focusing on the units that I needed to. Not only the target on the far flank that I was isolated, that I was able to surround and then shriek to death, but also my marked for death unit, that was the other unit of knights on the other far flank. Now, using the smaller units, I was trying to saturate the center of the board. Now, the mission itself meant that in order to capture the central objective, you needed to have more objective secured units or denial units or scoring units within 12 inches of the center of the table. You know, things like my Scourge and my Archon with the Webway portal, they were all on one flank, you know, helping deal with that unit of bikers that disappeared after a great shriek. But I had to sacrifice units in the center of the board in order to deny the RavenWing the chance to get that point early in the game for primary objective. That meant that he was able to start taking my smaller units apart piece by piece. This is one of the benefits of a Death Star. Death Stars are quite heavy and handy, and if they get to do things like multi-charge and do a lot of damage across multiple units, it really mitigates the fact that they're one big nasty unit. So me having to feed multiple units to the center of the table just to deny this primary objective really was not something that was the most tactically sound thing in a regular game, but something that had to be done in this game in order to give myself a fighting chance for that central point. Now, Evan played very well, and every turn he kept on denying the ability for me to get that point as well by killing enough of the units that I'd thrown into the center in order to get that objective. Now, in retrospect, I could have probably thrown more units into the center objective and really forced him to separate his unit, try and take them all out, and then allowed me to focus on them a little bit at a time. Or, you know, hopefully one or two would have survived, and then I would have been able to do some more objective grabbing. Now, this meant that the secondary objective, that was kill points, was something that I was going to be giving up anyway, because I had to throw so many small units at this large 600 point Death Star with rerollable cover saves, 2 Psychers, Samael, Feel No Pain. All in all, a very nasty unit. So my Psychic Shrieks and Leadership debuffs worked. They really helped that they ignore cover and armor, so even the Dark Knights are no match for some Psychic Shrieks. But the 4th turn was a pivotal turn in the game. Having only the Dark Shroud and the Command Squad left, I set up a large number of psychic attacks and shooting attacks against this big Death Star, being able to finally focus my entire army's force into this unit. And nothing happened. This was probably the pivotal turn, being that after not being able to do anything to the larger unit, that really exposed the rest of my army to the last 2 turns of the game, while still having to throw units into the central meat grinder, which is not something the Dark Eldar, and Harlequins like to do. All in all, this was a great game. You know, this sort of matchup is very tough for me, anything with a big Death Star. But anything that ignores cover is also a bad matchup for Evan. So they were both evenly matched armies. What did you think? Leave a comment down below. Make sure you check out the Patreon page and support the channel if you'd like to see more content like this. This is Skari, your grateful host, and tune in next time. Skari, out.